Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Kate. Poland's political landscape shifted dramatically on Friday as Law and Justice, the dominant force on the Polish right for nearly 20 years, suffered a major fracture. After party leader Jarosław Kaczyński demanded MPs abandon former Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki's new Development Plus association, he announced on Friday that over 30 MPs have effectively resigned by refusing a loyalty pledge. Morawiecki's camp promptly hit back, claiming 40 MPs are with him, insisting they were forced out while fighting to preserve party unity under a strategy of two lungs, a push to capture moderate voters without abandoning the conservative core. Could this be the end of an era for Law and Justice or the start of an all-out war for the future of the Polish right? Joining us now is Urszula Gacek, former Polish ambassador, Council of Europe. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning and happy to be with you this morning from Tarnów, south of Poland.
Welcome. So I wanted to begin by asking, are yesterday's events evidence that Law and Justice have split up, or can the camps still reunite, if only for the purpose of the upcoming 2027 general elections?
Well, there are 2 points. First of all, they haven't formally left the party. On Tuesday, the political body of Law and Justice will meet and they will decide formally to expel them. And I think Morawiecki's people want to be expelled rather than to leave. That, I think, is important for them. How things will shape up ahead of next autumn's election is a long way away. But this already has an impact on the makeup of the current parliament. So firstly, Law and Justice, which is the largest political group, they won the last election, but didn't have the capacity or the skill to create a coalition, now drop into second place. This will mean that they're going to lose some heads of key parliamentary commissions, some seats or places in overseas delegations. However, one thing that is also now technically possible, if Morawiecki on some topics joined forces with the ruling coalition, they could technically overthrow a presidential veto. It seems like a difficult situation to envisage, but a few weeks ago, we wouldn't have seen a situation where 40 MPs split off from Law and Justice.
Indeed. And now I wanted to move on. Perhaps this is a question that is less obvious to international viewers, maybe more obvious to domestic viewers. Why did Law and Justice leader Jarosław Kaczyński choose a loyalty ultimatum, which obviously brings a bit of a whiff of the communist era, instead of trying to negotiate a political compromise? We know that there has been an ongoing conflict and it's been going on for some time.
I think it's the nature of the beast. Jarosław Kaczyński has been used to dominating the Law and Justice Party and also the right of the political party scene for, as you mentioned earlier, almost 2 decades. And basically, in the past, with some exceptions, he has had defections in the past, people who have gone and then come back into the fold, notably Ziobro, former justice minister, went and then was welcomed reluctantly back as a satellite party. Is this a ploy to reunite before the next election? This is going to depend so much on the language that we're going to hear in the next days, weeks and months. For now, Morawiecki is saying, I'm still loyal to Law and Justice. My main opponent, stroke enemy, is Donald Tusk, the coalition headed by the Civic Coalition Party. But on some technical issues, on business issues, I could see Morawiecki, who was a former advisor to Tusk, actually aligning himself on some business, economic measures with Tusk, or at least abstaining in votes, not to be in such hard opposition. It really is a very, very open field at the moment.
OK, well, to get a better idea of Friday's events, let's hear from Poland's former Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki himself. Let's get a soundbite from him.
This is precisely why the Development Plus program was created, not to divide the right wing. It was created to defend the achievements of upper governments, which were sometimes being undermined from within. It was created to develop a program to broaden support and to regain the trust of the people who have left us. We were united by the conviction that Poland has entered a time of particular trial. We cannot be a closed and insular party. Let us be a great camp for Polish affairs, a great camp that will unite the right wing, the center-right and the Solidarity movement.
So as you mentioned, Mateusz Morawiecki has always been a little bit more center-leaning than Jarosław Kaczyński. So I wanted to get into perhaps some more details. Are we looking at a leadership struggle or perhaps a deeper ideological conflict regarding the Polish right?
I think both, but in first place, as a former politician and also as a former senator, I would say, I mean, when I watch that as a former politician, and I can see the real intent. Morawiecki wants to be the prime ministerial candidate of the broad right again. He does not want hard right Jarosław Kaczyński nominee Czarnek, who was a former education minister and has come out with very xenophobic, nationalist, anti-Ukrainian rhetoric. He doesn't want that person to be the anointed prime ministerial candidate. You also have to remember that Morawiecki had presidential aspirations as well, and he was not particularly pleased to see Nawrocki, who was basically pulled out of a hat. He was not a political animal, but he was chosen by Kaczynski and promoted and successfully won the presidential election. So Morawiecki has high ambitions. He wants to be back in a high position. Whether he's going to use this 40 or maybe more. I mean, I wouldn't rule out that once the opinion polls, not the first ones that come out now in the summer holidays, but once we start seeing opinion polls when things have shaken down a little bit, when the summer holidays are over, September, October, I could even envisage more people joining Morawiecki's club, ranks, whoever. They are going to be a separate force in the parliament. And whether he will use this to then come back, like maybe Ziobro did in the past, and negotiate good places on party lists for the upcoming election, remains to be seen. But I would not even rule out Morawiecki being a potential coalition partner for Donald Tusk. He would be a much more palatable partner after an election than Konfederacja, who have, let's say, pro-business, they're pro-business, but they're also fairly xenophobic and nationalistic. They would be a very difficult coalition partner for Tusk. So even a coalition of Tusk and Morawiecki, which would seem unpalatable now, could be feasible. Stranger coalitions have come out of the Polish parliament in the past.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear your opinions regarding Mateusz Morawiecki as a potential prime ministerial candidate. Perhaps we'll have time for that in a moment. But I wanted to ask you now, does Mateusz Morawiecki have enough credibility to build a viable party outside peace, law and justice?
He does. He is a very well-known figure. Please remember, he's a former prime minister. He's also privately a very wealthy individual, because to build a political party, you actually need money. You also need party structures. It's going to be interesting how the people who are lower down in the party food chain, so to speak, how the regional parties will react, how law and justice members of regional governments, local governments will react. Will they also split? Because this is going to be natural now for Morawiecki, if he really wants to create something separate, to start building a broad base, not just of 40 MPs in the parliament in Warsaw, but throughout the country. If he wants to create his own party lists come next autumn, he needs to start going out into the regions and recruiting, most likely amongst existing disgruntled peace local politicians to join his fraction. So this might have implications also for regional governments, for municipal councils. This really has very far-reaching consequences. And I'm very surprised to see that Kaczynski was unable to reach a compromise and that he did put down this ultimatum. Maybe he thought that Morawiecki would blink first, but he didn't. And now I think the rhetoric is going to become more and more heated. And I think Morawiecki now wants to be formally expelled along with his MPs from the party come Tuesday next.
So the immediate polling that came out yesterday with Morawiecki and Development Plus, we're looking at 2 to 7%. Is that a meaningful indicator of future electoral success?
Not at all. Not at all. Because, first of all, most people will have no idea what's going on. This is, people are not so tuned in to politics. It's also the summer vacation here in Poland. So it's always a lax season. This is not going to be a topic of conversation. The first meaningful opinion polls, in my opinion, are going to be mid to late September. He will have some premium for novelty, although he's not a completely new face. So he has the recognition. He can't say, well, we've never governed this country and we're going to do it another way, because he actually has former deputy ministers and ministers in his cohort at the moment. So he can say, we're a tested team. We don't want to go so far to the right. And peace is in a real dilemma, because if they lose the moderate side of their political party, Poland is effectively, or Polish voters have a choice of 3 hard right parties. And the question is, will they prefer the true hard right, like Confederation or the Confederation of the Polish Crown, who are really, really hard right? Or do they want a weaker imitation, which is now peace without the moderate Morawiecki MPs?
Now, as we wrap up, there are plenty of other questions. Has Przemysław Czarnek, Poland's former education minister, has his attempt to win back voters from Poland's Confederation and Grzegorz Braun already failed?
Yes, it's already failed. He is he's now he has been reprimanded actually by Jarosław Kaczyński, because he came out with some very anti-Ukrainian rhetoric suggesting that there should be no funding for Ukrainian defense from the European Union. And that met with a public reprimand by Kaczyński. I think Kaczyński may well be regretting the choice of Czarnek. I don't think Czarnek realizes yet that his days are over. But the question is, where does Kaczynski go now? Does he have to continue with Czarnek, or does he look for another Morawiecki-type candidate within his own ranks? Have they all left with Morawiecki, or are they all about to leave? He's not in an enviable position today. I think he's in the biggest bind politically that he has been in for a very, very long time.
OK, this is a developing story, plenty of other questions, but we'll leave it there for now. Urszula Gacek, former Polish ambassador, Council of Europe, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And that is all for World Talks right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more news and analysis on TVP World. Goodbye.